record on this thing. And we still got people that are tuning in, but welcome everybody to the Power Up and the Market Update. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit slightly different. As you guys already know, we typically go over market updates and we also have a sales conversation. But I think because of the time of the year, it's very, very important that we have a business plan dialed in, a solid business plan, so that can give us direction and we can set a clear intention as we move forward here in 2024. And what I did is I actually invited somebody that I trust at a very high level, Aaron Hodgson. If you guys have not had the opportunity to meet this man, he's an amazing coach with a company called Sell Well Coaching. And just a little bit about him, I'm going to give you guys a little background. In this training that you guys are going to go over, we're going to learn the exact business planning methods that Aaron Hodgson used to generate 60 listings per month as an agent. Who wants to get 60 listings a month? Who wants to get 60 listings a year, right? Like, sheesh. In this session, Aaron reveals the key to executing at higher levels, removing obstacles, and identifying your superpowers as a listing agent. Aaron Hodgson has started in the real estate business at the age of 21, so only like 5 years ago. Just kidding. He's been in the business 25 years plus, right?
Thank you. That's it, Leo. I'm good. 5 years ago is perfect for me.
That's a compliment, right? You owe me lunch for that one. And he made over $1 million his first year as a real estate agent. His first year as a real estate agent, $1 million. And he averaged 60 listings per month, and he maintained that for over a decade. Today, Aaron is a high-performance real estate coach, speaker, and consultant. Again, 25 years in the business, 5,000 closings, personal transactions. Then he became CEO of one of the fastest-growing real estate companies in the world. He's helped out over 16,000 real estate agents, guys. So what you guys are going to hear today will change your business. So lean in, tune in. And Mr. Aaron, the floor is yours. Let's go.
Thank you.
Give him
Thank you, Leo.
Let's welcome Mr. Aaron Hodgson. Let's go. Let's go.
Well, all right. Thank you for having me first off, and I appreciate it. So, it's always a little bit intimidating when you hear your own sort of stats being called out like that, because for me, it was never really about that. It was more about just sort of providing the life that I wanted to have. And quite honestly, I wouldn't wish 60 deals a month on my worst enemy. It was a nightmare to run it, but you have to have some strategies to make it work. One thing I do know, so I'm super proud of you guys for all putting your cameras on. You're never going to learn anything unless you get interactive, you start asking questions. So I encourage you, if you have any questions, please, this is a time to actually ask them. If you walk away with any sort of foggy ideas or any sort of unanswered questions, that's going to be an issue for you, but later down the track. I will be sharing some stuff with you today, just some very simple sort of techniques that I want to take you through. But I also want to change the way that you think about business planning, because business planning for me is probably the least sexiest thing in this industry. Everybody sort of sits down once a year, creates these beautiful business plans, and then they pat themselves on the back about 6 months later for doing 10% of it, because it becomes a bit more of a dream board. But I want to give you a bit of an understanding where I came from first, just so you can get a real good idea of what this whole plan's about and why we use it with so many realtors. First thing for me, I got into the business when I was 21. I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought realtors drove around in nice cars all day and drank coffee, so it just seemed like a really cool job to get. Yes, I did earn over $1 million in my first year. My average sale price was $250,000, so I wasn't selling multi-million-dollar properties. As you can tell from the accent, it was not in the US as well. This is my 10th country that I've lived in and sold real estate. So I can assure you it's the same anywhere you go around the world. If you get the right product, right program, right process, your business will work anywhere, irrespective of what the market's like. But to sort of share a real poignant stories, I'd been in the business about 3 years. I was averaging about 15, 20 odd deals a month. And I'm quite honest with you, I was miserable. Hated my job, thought 90 hours a week, worst job ever if I've got to work this hard. And this is pretty hard for a man to admit, but I sat down one day and realized that I was 99.9% of my problems. Every single thing that was going wrong in my business was me, my way I was reacting to it, the processes I was putting in play, even to a certain point, the people that I was listening to that hadn't done the things that I was trying to do. And that really sort of opened my eyes up that my business wasn't actually the issue. The way I was managing it was majorly what the problem was. So I actually made the decision I was going to quit. I'm going to get out of real estate, go do something a lot more fun. But not being a quitter, I also made the decision, look, if I actually could get my day down to my week down to about 40 hours a week, I might really start enjoying this business, get a bit of quality of life. Because at 90 hours a week, there's things that are going to get sacrificed. Your personal life, your health, everything else starts to go downhill. And it's a very short time that you're going to stay at that level. And so what I did was just looked at re-engineering everything in my business from a time management standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint. And over the preceding next 12 months, I started averaging 60 deals a month. I mean, I had a few months there where I was selling over 100 properties, and it wasn't through skill. It was actually through running a really good business, because you all know realtors who you have no idea how they put their pants on every day, and they still do more business than you do. There's a real method behind it. So my business planning is very different. Now, I do this with some, realtors that are doing over 100 plus deals a month. So it doesn't matter where you are in your business. This process for me is one of my crowning glories, I suppose, that really makes you hyper focus on, number one, the things you can control, get you out of the crap around you. But the number one thing you have to do every year, it's a two-phase process for me. I don't believe we should sit down and just do these 12-month business plans without first understanding exactly what we can do, what we can achieve, what we have to remove, how that whole process works. So I will drop a few links in the chats for you. So hey, I encourage you all to get this video after you've done it, after we've gone through the session, and go back through and watch it. I will give you the document so you can go through and fill it out yourself. But the first step is this. The first step is never creating the plan for what you're going to do next year. The very first step that I want everybody to think about is, what are you not taking with you into next year? Because one of the most baffling things in this industry right now, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen more changes in this industry than we've ever seen probably in my entire career. But the changes have not been in our industry. The changes have been with people, the way people react, the things that they respond to, the things that work, the things that don't. And a lot of things have a time on the shelf before they start to filter out and don't actually have the value that they've had in the past. So for me, the very first strategy I want to put in front of you is, for the next 30 days, I want you to do 4 one-week business plans with a sole focus on, how do I remove the things that aren't producing the results we needed to produce? Now, sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's a marketing strategy, sometimes it's a certain element of your business that just isn't working. Because never ever forget, if you've got a problem in your business, it will never go away. It'll just come back at the wrong time. And if you're not removing the things that are holding you back, trust me, it's going to get really, really funky as we move into next year. And I still swear by this. I still think the next 2 years potentially could be the best 2 years that we could ever see in this industry, because number one, your competition is going to be a lot thinner. There's a lot more opportunities for us to do the thing that we can control, which is go out and get listings. Now, I know everything that's going on around us right now, there's a lot of negativity around it. I personally think it's one of the best things that's ever happened, because we needed the biggest shakeup in this industry. Now, change is inevitable. It's always going to happen. We just have to have the ability to shift and change with it. And ironically, a lot of my business planning strategy is making sure that I have a plan if something doesn't work out right. And you all know at some point over the next 12 to 18 months, there's going to be some significant changes. Now, you can either wait and see what that actually eventuates to be, or you can start making some plans now. That doesn't matter what happens in the industry, you're still going to be 100% fine. I've got, probably my top 20 listing agents that I'm working with right now. Their businesses are up anywhere from 20 to 60% based on what they're doing. I will have a little preface on that, though. It's a lot harder to work it now than what it was a couple of years ago, but the revenue is there, which makes it worthwhile. And we've just had a couple of years where it's been pretty easy. Now, one of the greatest things that I sort of, probably understand or appreciate more about what we're going through at the moment is, I'm probably one of the few people that's been through one of these situations before. We had it happen in Australia many years ago. And ironically, the fallout, the first 12 months was a little funky while people were getting their footing, but the average income of the realtor went from about 80 grand a year up to about $300,000 a year when this thing finally landed, because you had to run a business. It's easy to fill your pipelines. You have to have a value proposition. So with that in mind, I will share a document with you. I might just drop it in there so you can have a look at it now. And then you can just sort of see what it is. I don't want you to go and do it right now. I want you to listen and go through the process. And for me, this starts, and I'll walk you through an average week in my business, because people pay me to come in and do 12-month business plans. So I understand what that looks like, but unless we can remove the things that aren't working and really understand what you are good at, it's very, very hard to build a business plan that's actually going to work, because not everybody likes door knocking. Not everybody likes doing open homes. However, I would love to talk to you about that, given that 90% of all the deals are coming from open homes right now. So sometimes it's also about finding ways to leverage opportunities. Another thing that I always do in the business planning process is understanding what all your resources are and what the obstacles are going to be for you achieving the results that you want, because very few people actually dive into this. So what I would do is, every sort of Monday morning, I actually personally prefer to do this on a Sunday night. I like to wake up Monday morning, know exactly what I'm going to be going out there to do. And so on a Sunday night, I would sit down, and you'll see the weekly targeting sheet in front of you. If you just did this for 30 days, it will give you such pinpoint accuracy to be able to build the most perfect business plan ever, because the only thing you're going to put on it is things you know you can actually go and do. Now, I've seen this all the time. We have these great business plans that are all focused on, I want to do X amount of deals a year, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. But the strategy behind doing it is non-existent, does not exist. And so if we really want to be really good at what we do in this business, the number one talent you need to teach yourself, which is what I discovered I didn't have at the time, was my ability to execute every single thing I put in front of me. Because if every single person on this call right now could finish one thing a day perfectly, where do you think you'd end up being right now? The sad part is most of us have this massive list of stuff to do, but we never really finish it. And unfortunately, you can't 95% sell a house, because the last 5% is when you get paid. So you can't actually effectively get a result from something if you're never finishing it. And so what we designed with the weekly targeting was, number one, to teach you how to finish the things you put in front of you, but also how to understand how to break down targets to a point where you're always achieving a win. You're always getting further and further to the process. And it really stems from underlying value for us. If this week and next week are exactly the same, it's a massive failure. It needs to be a movement forward. So if you're not removing something that didn't work, not adding something of value to your business on a weekly basis, I mean, I love this term, but it's kind of real. The next 12 months is either going to define you or expose you. You now get to make a choice what that's actually going to do. You're either going to get exposed as someone that had no plan, was hoping your business was going to work, or you're going to be defined as somebody that can actually modify their business no matter what's going out there in the marketplace and achieve some incredible results. So a couple of things when we sit down looking at targets, always put something down as a target that you know you can get done. And what I really want you to have a look at is, we look at targets as hey, I need to go get a listing. Okay, that's a wish. That's not an actual target. And so I would be saying, look, if you want to go get a listing, let's break that into 10 different steps. If you want to get a listing, how many people do you need to talk to? Now, the other thing is, it's not just people. Who in your future pipeline are people that are getting closer to the end of potentially making a decision? So what it ends up doing is it enables you to PowerPoint or pinpoint down to those things that you actually need to operate on. And if you do this every single week for the next 30 days, you are going to absolutely end up with exactly what it is you need to go and do, which I like to call having your absolute non-negotiable foundational platform that you're going to drive your business with. Because when you get up every morning, do you know exactly what you're going to go and do? It's a very simple question. Who here wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning and knows exactly what they're doing for the rest of the day? Most of us are doing this. We're guessing, we're thinking. The ones that actually have a plan, there's a couple of reasons we love the plan. One, you can diversify if something doesn't go well. The other thing is you stop that stagnant sitting there thinking about, sort of quick reaction activities. There's no process behind it. And so what this whole process did for me is it enabled me to really pinpoint the things that worked. Now, I will share a little secret with you. The things that actually work for you generally aren't things you like doing. And I'll give you a very, very good question. Who here is brave enough to have a quick conversation with me? Somebody put their hand up. I want to ask a quick question. Neil, up the top there. You look like you look like you've got a personality I can dive into this. So Neil, and I want everybody to really listen to this, and I want you to think about this when you're doing your business plans. Now, forgive me if it sounds a little morbid, but I need you to understand where it's coming from. So here's the challenge, Neil, and Leo authorized me to do this. So here's your, this is the lucky door prize for you being here today. So you have 30 days from this moment on to go and list 4 properties. Okay, 30 days from right now, 30 days, list 4 properties. If you do not list the 4 properties, you're going to drop dead. What are you going to do? I'll give you a rule first, Neil. Can't tell anybody you're dying. I don't want a sympathy vote. What are you going to do?
I'd find a way to come hell or high water to list 4 properties. That's for sure.
Okay, so let's for 1 second, Neil, stop being a realtor. What are you actually going to do? Your life depends on the next 30 days. What's the very first thing you're going to go do?
I'm going to start knocking on doors.
Yep. Cool. What else?
I'm going to start picking up the phone and dialing like crazy.
Okay, perfect. So, Neil, I will tell you it is a bit of a trick question. And the reason I actually asked that question is I've been doing that for about 15 years, and I've done it for a reason, because every single time I've asked somebody, a realtor, that question, not once in my entire career has a realtor ever come back to me and said that they double down on what they're doing right now. Not once has a realtor sat there, looked me in the eye and said, you know what, I'm going to spend twice as much time on social media. I'm going to send twice as many emails. Not until your actual life and your business depends on it. Now, I know it's a little morbid, but maybe we should start thinking a little bit more serious about how our business operates. Because if you want to sit back and wait, the opportunity is always going to pass you by. And Neil, you're 100% right. But my thing is, if your life depended on it, why would that not be the foundation and fundamentals of every single day when you get up? Now, what it ended up doing for me is I asked myself that question every single time I put something on a business plan. If my business, my livelihood depends on this action, is it still going to go on this business plan? Watch how quickly the tasks shrink down to about 3 or 4 things that you actually know you can do. Because most of us, when we sit down and look at every action we do every day, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't respond to it. You're just doing stuff to keep yourselves busy. And this is kind of where I can get a little forceful and pushy, because I've been in that situation where I was filling my day full of stuff, working 90 hours a week and then coming to the realization that probably 40 of those 90 were absolutely worthless crap that I was doing just to keep busy. It was a perception of what I was doing, and then trying to break it down to exactly where my business came from based on that theory. If I had to go get 4 listings tomorrow, where's it coming from? Now, everybody on this call right now knows damn well it's not coming from lead gen. At the moment, future pipeline, 100%, yes. But if you needed to get something today, it's coming from someone that knows you, 100%. And the other thing you got to realize is that all of my realtors right now, we survey this thing as much as we can. About 90% of the leads are coming from opens because it's face-to-face. You get a human interaction, you get an engagement, you've got something to leverage and operate. And the reason the conversion is getting a little hard on a lot of lead gen is there's just a distaste for talking to us. The hours you have to put into it aren't producing the results. Now, I'm not saying get rid of it, allocate the right amount of time to it. And so when you're building out a business plan, you're going through these weekly targeting, I want you to really understand where you spend the most amount of your time. Now, here's where I got the greatest wake-up call in my career. So at that point where I was thinking about quitting, going, this just isn't work for me, the very first thing I looked at is, where is my business coming from? 100%. When I sit down and look at every single deal that comes in, where is it coming from? Until I got the sort of a bit of a reality check that probably 80+% of my business was coming from, a technical referral source. So it was, through someone that knew me, through, multiple sort of points of communication. And so I put that as a referral opportunity more than anything, depending on how it came about. And then when I looked at how I was prospecting in my business, 90% of every waking moment for me was finding another living, breathing body to try and do a deal with, until I realized that's the stupidest thing ever in my business, because what I'm not doing is really leveraging the people who desperately want to help me. So I implemented in my business, I do this with every one of my agents right now, highly recommend, please take this away, especially at this time of the year, is what I call my 80-20 rule, where 80% of every bit of my prospecting is focused on keeping people in my business. 80% of everything I do every day is designed to keep people in my business. Because understand this, there's very few people out there in the marketplace right now that have many questions about real estate. They've got more about finance. They've got more about affordability. They've got more about what their next move is going to be down the track. And so the biggest turn that I had in my business, number one, to get my hours down, was I focused on things I could control, which is relationships I already had. So please do this favor for me. When you do the very first week of this, I want you to focus on things only that you can control. I don't want you to put marketing, social media. I want you to put things that you can actually control the outcome. And so when I talk about the outcome, what's going to drive an emotional reaction from somebody? What's going to drive somebody to actually want to have a conversation with you? And I've got lots of cool things that I will share with you. And I'll just give you a couple of tips. I like to always dive straight in and just hit it and see what happens. And so we had this thing about 6 months ago where what was really frustrating us more than anything was really good people making really bad decisions on crappy information that was out there in the marketplace. So we just went right through every single one of our clients' databases and sent them a very, very simple email. It was if you called them, you could say the same thing, but we said this: hey, look, here's the number one thing I'd love you all to go do this time of the year. And so we just opened it up by saying, look, we are not going to be like every other realtor, because one thing we know for certain is it's not the right time for everybody to sell. Okay. But if you're thinking about doing something in the next year or two, it's absolutely the right time to start putting a plan together, because we're seeing so many changes happen that what we really want you to do is make sure that when you get to that point, if it happens to be an option, you'd at least consider us for it. But at worst case, you're going to be really well educated around what your choices and options are. And so all we were doing was asking for an opportunity. What we did was break down the wall of them thinking all we were going to do was beat them down to try and get a deal. And the pipeline started to fill. And now all of a sudden, those timeframes for people are starting to shorten dramatically, and the listings are now coming on the table. That was about 6 months ago. Now, with the things that are happening out there in the marketplace right now, this is what week one should be. What can you control? What can you change? And are you very, very comfortable that every single person that you know right now would at least consider you as an opportunity if they decided to sell? Now, there's not a single person on this call that can say yes to that answer, to that question. And if you say yes, you're wrong. You need to assume that every single person that you know is going to forget what you do for a job every 12 hours. I don't care whether it's right or wrong. If you remember that and think about that, you're going to do everything you can to be remembered. And that's really what this business is about. We're oversaturated with people that do what we do. Our biggest challenge is how do we stay top of mind? Okay, and that's just being present. You just can't do it with the strategies that are out there right now, because human nature is a very easy thing to understand. And if you're only communicating once or twice a year, you are not going to get remembered at the right time. You might be remembered after they've done the deal, but you're never going to be remembered at the right time. So the very first week, I want you to focus on this. Like these templates, keep them simple. I actually highlight one of the things I always like to say in your first round, put 4 or 5 things on it. Make it so easy you can't screw it up. If you want to put 15 things on a business plan, you're going to be comfortably not doing most of it. Maybe what you could do is put 2 things on. Maybe the first step is teaching yourself how to finish every single thing you put in front of yourself. And sometimes it might not be the complete task. It could be half of it, so that when you start it next week, you're going to be a lot closer to getting the result. I'll give you a perfect example of how breaking down a task works. If I said, like, I've met this awesome guy, Leo, I know he's thinking about selling, and all I'm thinking to myself is I really want to get in front of him to do a listing appointment. Now, he might not be ready for that. So if I know I'm not going to get him into that appointment this week, my target for the week is what's maybe 1 or 2 things I can connect with them on that aren't real estate related, that can actually help me leverage and grow the relationship, because silence is deadly. And the longer I leave it, the opportunity could disappear. Or maybe it's just sitting down with them and having a coffee and saying, Leo, I don't want to talk about selling your home right now. I just want to get an understanding of what you're thinking about doing. Maybe just getting an idea of where you potentially could be going, just so I can get an idea of, potentially putting something in front of you that might motivate you a little bit more down the track. And so for me, it's breaking it down into steps. And one of the things that I always put on my business plan, highly recommend you all do the same thing. I don't care what you put on your business plan. There should be a little note at the bottom of it that says, what is the next step? Nothing is ever finished. What is the next step? So if I got Leo into a meeting, we finally had a coffee, I'm going to have a question in my head. I'm going to have it written down what is the next step? So I'm going to be thinking about Leo going, what's the next step? How do I get him to the next point? Because our job is to keep people progressing through the program until we get them to a situation where they're thinking about doing something in real estate. And so that's always a big process for me. Next step, smaller incremental things that I can achieve, get to a point where you're chipping away at it. So at least when you sit down on a Friday, you've actually moved forward, not going, okay, well, I didn't do it. And if you're not breaking your task down, you're going to be letting yourself down all the time, because you're never going to achieve what the task is. So once I understand what it is, I break it into 4 or 5 things. Because let's be honest, if everybody can teach themselves how to finish what they put in front of themselves every day, you would never, ever need to do another business plan. And you'd be like what I did and just do one of these every single week. And then every single week, Monday through Friday, if you're finishing 4 or 5 things that are absolutely helping you grow your business, what else would you need to do? And the only thing I say, and I'm not being negative against business planning, but at the moment, I don't see the value in doing a 3 to 6 month business plan, given the fact that our market's changing every 30 days right now. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to be putting in a business plan for February or March of next year, given that's a little bit unknown. Why don't we get real central on what we're doing right now? You guys have a window of opportunity between now and the end of the year to make a significant difference on the people that you know. And if you sit down and create a 1-week business plan for the rest of the year and you execute those perfectly, I will come back in January with Leo and I will show you how to put out a 90-day business plan around everything you know damn well you can actually go out there and achieve a result from. That will make you bulletproof. And one thing it will give you is a foundation that will not change no matter what happens to the market. And one of my biggest successes in my business wasn't my ability to sell real estate, absolutely nothing remotely close to it. It was my ability to run a business no matter what was happening in the market. When the market dies up and things get challenging, do I quit or do I find a way to change it? And we can see things changing in the market. The worst thing we can do as real estate professionals, we need to be business people and go, look, what's the solution if this thing does get a little uncomfortable? Okay, hypothetically, what happens if they turn the switch and next, January the 1st, there's no more buyer's agents? What are you going to do? Yeah, you've got to have an idea for it, because I think having a plan, that's not going to happen. But hypothetically, sometimes we need to think a little bit more, and traumatic's not the right word, but you need to put yourself under enough pressure. Like what I was saying to Neil, if you only had 30 days to make a change, what would you do? And it's interesting, like you think about people that are lifetime smokers, they don't quit until the doctor says, hey, you're going to drop dead in 6 weeks unless you quit. Now they never touch another one ever again. Real estate is no different. We get so many sort of windows of opportunity to do nothing that we always choose to go that easy route. As we move into this next change of the market, this for me is a huge opportunity for you to really define who you are. Because we do need to step out and we need to start showing people what our point of difference is, because on paper, we're all the same. So maybe this is what you should be looking at in your business strategies right now. Like, what are my things that I can control? What's absolutely producing a result? And when I talk about producing a result, when we look at ROI, time management's the most critical one. It's not money. If you're spending 5 hours a day doing lead gen and getting nothing from it, maybe it's the wrong lead gen. Maybe what you're actually doing or saying is the wrong thing. We've got to try and find the ways to improve. Because there's one thing I can assure everybody on this call right now, every single thing you've ever been shown, taught, given any insight into and how to prospect and grow your business in real estate, I will guarantee you every single one of those things works. It just doesn't work for everybody. Your job is to go find what works for you, not go replicate somebody else. And because they've sort of told you it worked. I mean, I want to see some proof. I want to see what's out there. And ironically for me, the hardest thing for me was finding the things that I knew I could actually produce results from. Sadly, for me, the two things that made me the most amount of money were the two things I hated the most. They were doing opens and door knocking. Despised both of them, hated them. That was just a crazy. So I just found a better way to do it. Found a new way to do open homes. Found a new way to do door knocking where I wasn't just going out there and randomly knocking on doors. Found a really targeted process to actually produce better results. Found ways to actually implement these things so I could do them every single day, not once a month because I couldn't come back. And so here's where I want to sort of tie in a bit of a different thought process for you. Business plan is about 30% of the action. The review process is the 70% of the success. And I'm going to say it again. The business plan is about 30%. The review is about 70% of where the success comes from. So Monday morning, I would do that target sheet. I'd go through it. We'd put out what we were doing. But the most important meeting for me every single week was at 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Now, that's not me running off to the bar and having a drink. And you can do that afterwards. I mean, once you've had some successes, you can go do that. But it was reviewing every single thing that I'd done for the week with a view to look at what didn't work. Where did we not get a result? And then rather than go, okay, well, we didn't get it because of this, we'd actually look at everything on the plan and we'd go, right, what could we have done different to have made that result different? Was there something we should have done different? Was there some planning we should have had in play? Did we have the right resources? Did we understand what our obstacles were? The review process for me defines somebody that's going to succeed in this business forever and someone that's going to fail really, really quickly. Because if you want to get closed eyes and not look at where the problems are coming from, they're always going to exist. Now, I'd sit down with Bernie, who was my assistant, every Friday afternoon. We'd go through with that. And almost every single time, you can blame yourself for every problem. Like we weren't, we got a little sidetracked. We got tied up in a meeting. We didn't go and deliver it in the right framework. We didn't do any of those things that we were supposed to. So it just sort of fell off to the side and we never got it done. And so for me, everything that we were putting on it is a growth activity. It's designed to grow the business. You're going to have your normal calendar for doing things that you're operating on right now. But the other tip that I want to give you, whatever you put on this plan, I want it to be only about growing. And growing is also turning backwards and having a look at the people you already know. Just saying, if you want to grow real fast, make damn sure you take the people with you that you already had. That's where you're going to get the bulk of your growth, especially for the next 6 to 8 months. I mean, I think that's where people are going to lean. We're not going to really dive into a lot of sort of new marketing things. There's a lot of people sitting there watching, seeing what's happening in the market. Actually, I'm going to give you a perfect example of how this works. If I went to one of my best friends and said, look, and people lean on relationships, not skill. I will tell you this 100%. I used to think people used to always sell with me because I was the top agent in the country, which was completely false. That actually drove more people away from my business and brought in because it was an ego-driven exercise. It was like people wanted to feel like they were personal. 90% of the people, and I'll say 90 because 10% just used me half the time for whatever it was, but at least 90% of the people listed with me because they were told I was a good person to deal with, not because I was a great realtor. And if I went to one of my very best friends and I said, look, I've met this guy, Leo. He is an incredible realtor, but as a person, he's a little funky. You might not like him, a little bit of an ass. He's not going to get any business. But if I spun it around and I went to one of my friends and said, look, I've met this guy, Leo. He's a realtor, as far as I know. You are never going to meet a nicer, more honest, upfront guy. He's never going to be more genuine and honest. Leo's going to get every single deal that I get that way because I'm now secure that my friendship's going to be taken care of. Let me assure you one thing. People will never refer you business because you're good at selling real estate. They'll refer it to you because they know that you're going to protect the friendship and the relationship that comes through. So why would you not go and share that with everybody that you know? I would tell them, look, I will promise you, I'm not going to badger you people about selling their home. What I'm going to do, be a resource. And if they decide they want to use me, hopefully they'll give me an opportunity. So understand how that works. That's why I want the first one to be solely about what you can control. Get into your databases, talk to people, have some different conversations with them. Make it personal. Don't regurgitate stuff out of a CRM. Make it personal. You need to find a point of difference. The other thing I've got to insist on is you've got to get people on the phone. And now I know it's the most powerful thing, but there's another reason behind the phone call. When people have changed as much as they have right now, you need to hear the emotional response. The emotional response will tell you every single thing you need to know as to what your next step's going to be. Now, when I call Leo, I can hear whether he's having a great day or a bad day. My job is to determine what it is. In an email or a text message, you're not going to see that. You don't know what your next step's going to be. And then the flip side to it, I understand not everybody's going to pick up the phone, but you're now starting to teach people how you want to communicate. Now, I've got growing daughters, and our entire communication plan is all via text message. Trust me, I know exactly how it works until they want money, and then the phone rings. Because when they want something important, the phone will ring. We need to start teaching people how we're different. Don't get lazy with your communication. Pick up the phone and call. Because when somebody has an open conversation with you and something starts to happen, you start thinking about the time frame moving forward. They present opportunities. Now you have the ability to put a plan in front of them, which brings me back to this other thing. Whenever you're doing a business plan, never associate a time frame with anything that's on the business plan. If you put a time frame of achieving your paycheck, it's going to be driven by your want to get paid, not by your want to help the person that you're actually doing this action for. And the only thing that I say about it, putting a time frame on it, is it drives really instant gratification type mentality. It doesn't sort of prolong the growth of your business. You start to get a little bit more desperate, a little pushy. I will say it is one of the greatest talents you can ever learn being a realtor. If you can treat people exactly the same, no matter when they're going to do business with you, watch how much money you're going to make. And the reason why most realtors fail is because we treat people based on what we can get and how quickly we can get it. Because you all know, if I came on right now and said, look, I've got 5 homes that I'm selling here, in the next week, you guys are all going to be real nice to me. But if I said, look, I've got 5 homes I'm going to sell over the next decade, you guys are going to wait till I actually ask somebody to help me. You're not going to get in front of that. And I will say this without a doubt, the people that are thinking about selling in the next 12 months are 100% your greatest lead source right now. Because how you take care of them when there's nothing in it for you, this is why this business plan will work. Because just imagine if you had 5 people every week that you would connect with, build a relationship with, that could actually help you grow your network. You want some real results, this is where it's going to come from. One of the things that I'm pushing everybody away from right now is spending money. Now, not because it's not working. There's just a lot of better things you can do with your time at the moment. We're getting a little oversaturated in a few areas, but if you've got a network of people behind you, I'd be reinvesting my time in that right now. Now, the flip side of how this actually works is a lot of people always say to me is, when do I do my business plan? Like, when do I actually do this? I've got all these things that I need to do. And so I want to share a little technique with you that is kind of non-negotiable for all my students, is that for me, I don't believe, now just follow me along with the process before you start judging me. I don't believe realtors should ever be doing prospecting after 10 o'clock in the morning. Let that sink in, because most realtors are going, fantastic, like I can quit at 10. Not true. Not true at all. We need to be focusing on the things that are absolutely utmost important in our business when we're at our best. And one of my absolute non-negotiables is my calendar starts at 10 a.m. every day. So all my appointments, showings, listing appointments, 10 o'clock onwards, but from 8:30 to 10 o'clock every single day, Monday through Friday, weekends if we're doing opens, but Monday through Friday, my first 90 minutes is solely about growing my business. I'm calling people, connecting with leads. That first 90 minutes when I'm at my best, and just so you know, nobody else has had the opportunity to upset them yet either, so your strike rate's always going to be a little bit higher. Now, you'll always come back and do some follow-up later in the day, but if every one of you spent the first 90 minutes of the day finding another lead opportunity or just connecting with people and growing that pipeline, you cannot be that unlucky. You can be that unlucky if you do it once a month in the hope that it's going to work, or you have a really crappy day, you come back to the office at 5 o'clock and then start trying to make some phone calls to fix the crappy day. Not going to happen. And so for me, if I got up, on a Tuesday morning, I generate another couple of listing opportunities, I could lose a listing that afternoon. I'm still better off than what I was when I started. Most of the things that I put in play with my business were to control me and my own attitude towards what was happening in the business, because I can't control the industry, the market, but I can sure as hell control the way I react to it. And that was by making sure I was doing selfish things. And selfish means me giving me the ability to give everybody I work with the best version of me. It's not always about just, doing things that work for me, but it was just showing that I could focus on the right things. But that 8:30 to 10 o'clock, non-negotiable. And I'm good with having one day that goes sideways, where something goes off that I've really got to go and fix it. But having 4 days, spending 90 minutes purely on growth, it's a game changer, because it's dedicated, it's focused. You can actually get in there and do it. I say mix it up a little bit as well. I'm not a big fan of sitting there making an hour of phone calls of all the same things. I like to have 4 or 5 phone calls, move on to a different topic so that I can sort of stay a little bit fresher with it as well. But just hypothetically, put yourself in a mental picture right now. If for the next 6 weeks, you do a 1-week business plan, you execute 4 or 5 things perfectly every week, you spent 90 minutes Monday through Friday, just focusing on growing your business, reconnecting with people, just really adding some value. You cannot tell me come January the 1st, you're not going to be in 10 times better spot than you are right now. It's physically impossible. It's funny enough for me in my coaching program, it's the only thing I guarantee 100%. You do it perfectly, it's always going to work, because one, it's going to gain more hours in your day because you're going to start working out what things aren't working and aren't producing results. You're going to review every single marketing thing that you do, every single communication plan you've got. You're going to understand exactly what's coming in, what's not. Trust me on this, the review process is the most important thing you'll ever do, because if you don't teach yourself to remove the things that aren't working, it'll always stay there. And it's interesting, people always talk about, why do people stay in bad relationships? And it's not because we like it, it's because we get used to it. And the reason that we sort of stay in this sort of mundane, no sort of success route in real estate is we kind of get used to it. We get hopeful that there's going to be a change, or the mortgage rate's going to drop and everybody's going to come back in and start selling. I don't think that opportunity is coming anymore. I mean, people are a lot smarter now than what they were 3 or 4 years ago. They want to understand, what is your value prop? Who are you? What makes you different to everybody else? Now, the question is you, not your industry, you. What makes you different to the 9,000 other agents that I know? And that's maybe the first thing you actually want to determine. If somebody gave you an opportunity today and said, look, I've got 4 homes that I want to sell, you've got 30 seconds. Why would I list it with you? If you can't answer that question, that would be the first one to be trying to answer. Now, there's a real trick, easy way to it. Don't answer it. Because, I mean, if someone says, 30 seconds, why would I list with you? The smart negotiator is going to turn around and say, look, you gave me 30 seconds. Clearly, this is not your first rodeo. What do you need? Like, if you really are, interested in moving forward with somebody, understand how to build those strengths. And like I said, a simple weekly target planning can become your lifelong business plan, because, hey, if something works, why would you step out and try to do something different? And for me, I'd like to shorten the time frame on everything, because it gives me way less opportunity to screw it up. Way less opportunity. I mean, every one of my prospecting activities was the same. So if I had an hour that I'd blocked out in the morning where I was doing certain things, I actually just shortened the time to 45 minutes. It makes me go a little quicker. And I'm very vigilant with my time. I'm not going to drag things on for another 45 minutes. I don't pick up the phone for I don't do anything but focus on the things that I've set down to do in my business plan. And you can start to realize how fundamentally flawed a business plan can be if you actually haven't worked out what you're good at to start with, because what are you building it around? And one of the things that we've learned, in that 16,000 agents we've got, not one of them's the same. Every single one of you's got something different, a different strength, a different weakness, a different fear, a different goal. It doesn't matter where you're trying to go. So there isn't one size fits all. You chose to be in this business so you could have the freedom to do whatever you wanted, make as much money as you can. Now take a backward step and have a look at your business. You're the CEO of your own company. Would you go work for you right now based on the plan that you have right at this moment to build your business? And if you can't, if you probably question it a little bit, maybe you want to start having a good look at it, because the opportunities to become successful have never been as great as they are right now, because the industry is filtering out. You guys have an incredible leadership team. You've got all the things you could possibly ever want. What are you actually doing? Maybe the first thing you should be doing is reviewing every single thing you have access to. What are you using to the full potential? Your CRM's working, your database managements, your communication plans. Why isn't this the time that we're going back through and reviewing everything? For the first reason to be that you 100% believe in what you're sending out as the absolute best version of the realtor you want to be. And let's see how that works out. Review is the most powerful thing. Now, one of the things I've always said to people is I wasn't a particularly good realtor when I got into business. I was a likable guy. I outworked every other realtor 3 hours to 1, making more mistakes than anybody that I knew. But the mistakes was what made me great, because I got confirmation and proof of what wouldn't work for me. And one of the things that it really sort of bothers me about realtors is we're smart enough to come up with 10 reasons why it won't work before we even try. And I will be the first to admit, every single thing that I did in my business wasn't a unique and new idea. It was taking an idea that I'd seen somebody else do, some of my own, but taking an idea and just finding a different way to execute it, finding a different way to roll it out so that it worked for me. And that's what I'm encouraging you all to do right now. Like, if you don't like doing open homes, find a different way to do it. I found shorter, more effective ways to do open homes. Door knocking, didn't like it because it was a one-off random activity that people do once a month. Mine happened every single day for 40 minutes. There was little ways that you can create great opportunities to grow your business. And then I also discovered that the Ring doorbell killed my door knocking. So I had to find a different way to do it, because I spent all day just crouched down looking at a video camera. So finding different ways to get engagement. Your job in this business, if you're the CEO of your own company, you've always got to find redirectional points to change the way that things happen, produce a different result, and find a very simple process to roll it out. Because I tell you what, between Monday and Friday, if you've got 4 things to focus on, it's pretty hard to screw it up. But if you've got a 12-month business plan where it's all based on you making $1 million a year and you're deciding to start in August of next year, you're not really going to get there. And I think the one thing that's really blown me away the most about the majority of our clients is nobody to date actually knows what they're really, really good at. Very few people know they know what they like, but they don't know what they're really good at. Like, if you got pushed into a corner where you had no choice, where would you go? Because if my life depended on it, I'm not going to go to the things I like. I'm going to go to the stuff that works. I'm going to go and get on the phone. I'm going to make myself so uncomfortable because it's going to be a lot more, friendly than getting to that 29th day thinking, well, I've got 24 hours left to go. What am I going to do? Maybe we should just put ourselves under a little bit more pressure. And I was lucky enough that I kind of did that to myself. And then the production of the results moving forward was incredible. And I always say, just forget the volume. The volume was something completely different. Had a huge business doing that. But the thing that was more impressive in my business was the consistency. And for the last decade of my career, my income fluctuated less than 10% every month, no matter what the market was doing, because that's the way I designed it to work. It wasn't focusing on instant gratification activity. I was focusing on, my main focus was my 90-day plus pipeline, and how do I find those people and shorten the timeframes. And so the different conversations, easier things for me to focus on, a lot less awkward things. Understanding if I want to really engage with my people, I've got to understand my people. And the reality of it is, I used to blow you away with what I knew about your house, but I'm not going to know more about your house than the person that lives in it. Even if I'm right, you're still going to be more right than I'll ever be. But I've also discovered that I've never seen a house sign a contract. So why do we spend all that time doing that? So my goal was, every time I met somebody, creating client profiles. My job is to find 30 different things to communicate with you that are going to give me reasons to have a point of difference that aren't about real estate. How do I build that relationship? In my entirety of my business, I had a core group of people, about 50 people, that produced probably 70% of my referrals. They were, just referral source people that had different networks of people I could dive into. I had my databases, I had my future lead sources. I had all these different funnels that I was working, and they all had very different communication plans, different timeframes of approach. And I was doing that volume, working less than 40 hours a week, because my business worked the way that it was designed to work. I didn't have to get up every day and design what was going to happen or where it was going to go. It automatically worked because of the structure that we put in play. And so understand, when you're going through this over the next 6 weeks, if you decide you need something new, this is the time to do it. And I'm not saying just don't put sugar on it, put some glitter on it, and hope it's a little different. Pull it out, make it personal. Get in there and have a look at all your communication plans. Would you respond to it? Is it something that's going to provide some value? And if you're only going to go to a point where you're going to take something off the shelf that 9,000 other realtors are doing more for you, because you're never going to stand out from the crowd. Unless you get the ability to have a conversation with somebody you're exactly the same as everybody else. And so for me, everything was just, how do I get somebody to a point where I can show them why I'm different? And so for me, every email I sent out used to always have this little note on the bottom saying, I will follow you up in the next 24 hours to see if you have any questions. I no longer ever make another cold call because I've told you that I'm going to do it. Little things like that just really help you get what I like to call my 30 seconds of courage, because there's no way to sugarcoat this. I don't care how long you've been in the business. Calls are hard. Getting up every day and making phone calls to people that you don't really know is always going to be hard. It's only hard because the crap that's going to come out of your mouth isn't cool. Find something cool to say, like do some client profiling. You've got something I never had, which is you've got the ability to jump online and in 35 seconds, find out 50 things about every random stranger that you've never met that could actually start a conversation. You're not using that information to get a conversation started. What you're doing is using it with what you think is going to happen. Dive onto the call, dive into the communication, start talking about real estate. We don't even know where they're at yet. What we want to do, find a point of difference. Use the stuff that's around you. And so for the next 6 weeks, if you're just doing a weekly plan, maybe one's about adding, one's about removing, just go through the process. And when you have the ability to build out a 90-day plan, it's going to be solely focused on task-driven exercises. And because if every single one of us right now does exactly the same business plan, every one of you is going to earn a different amount of money, because it's all going to come down to the way you execute it, how persistent you are, how consistent you are, like the changes, how personal it is, the point of difference. That's where the real dynamic shift happens in this business. If you want to go out there and replicate somebody else that's never done what you're trying to do, you're probably going to end up in the same spot. But every one of you is unique and different. You've got to start showing people what it looks like. If everybody out there right now saying, well, you realtors are the same, isn't that your greatest opportunity to change it? And ironically, that was the real trigger point for me. There's so many people say, well, you guys all do exactly the same thing. And it used to frustrate me because I'm thinking, no, we don't. We're not even remotely close. But my opportunity was I never showed you why I was different. And so everything for me was just showing people how I never marketed anything about real estate. I marketed things about what I'd done to help people. Because nobody cares what you're about to do. Everybody cares about what you've done in the past. and understand if all the frustrations around the way they get treated, the value of the service, maybe that's the thing we should be highly promoting, not how great the market is right now. And if you don't buy today, in 6 months' time, you're going to get, overpriced or sold out of the market. Nobody cares about that. I mean, 80+% of every transaction that happens for an emotional or personal reason. So it doesn't matter what happens to interest rates, homes are still going to sell. Sure, it'll get a little funky, but if you actually, for those of us that have had a few more years under our belt, the greatest market we've ever had in history, interest rates are at 12%. When we're talking about transactions and closings and turnovers, so interest rates are irrelevant. What is irrelevant, this happened really quickly. We need to get ready because that bottleneck is about to pop. And if your people don't know who you are, they're going to go to somebody else. And so for the next 6 weeks, please take this target setting sheet. There's a lot of other freebies in the link to it. If you want to go into that link, I've loved working with Leo and sharing some stuff, and I'm a big information giver. I'll give you everything you want. Just do me a favor. If you're going to take something, do something with it. Like, don't just sit there and look at it. Take the weekly plan, mess around with it. Maybe start light, put 3 things on there, break it down, understand what it takes to complete something. I mean, perfect example, if you've got someone that you're trying to get a listing appointment with, the first thing that should be on that plan is not setting up the listing appointment. The first thing is booking the bloody phone call in your calendar so you can actually make the phone call to the client. Not going through the whole planning off and I get them in there and I'll do the listing presentation. First step, get them on the phone, see if you can secure a time to go and meet with them. Break it into the most simplest things you possibly can. If you get to the end of the week, you've had a couple of conversations, but you still haven't committed to a date, you're still a lot further ahead than where you were when you hadn't made the phone call. Teach yourself that forward movement is the only thing that's going to keep us going. And I think the only negative thing about business planning is sometimes they become a little bit like dream boards, where it's like all our wishes and what we'd like to do, which I think there's some necessary part of that. But I think the thing that we need to do more than anything right now is remove a lot of the bad habits that were created over the last 3 or 4 years just through ease of the market and start working out what's not going to go with us into the next year. Who is not going to go with us into the next year? Sometimes partners and all that sort of stuff need to find another place to go as well. Clients that aren't pre-approved, that aren't willing to do what you're doing, respect yourself. If you've got a client that's not prepared to elevate themselves to the standard of the service that you're offering, find somebody else. Because the one thing that I will assure you, one bad client in your business, you're going to give a little piece of that to every single person you work with. And I used to always have a question in my head. Whenever I would sit in front of a new client, my question was, does everybody that I'm working with right now deserve you to be in this business? Because I'm going to give a little piece of your attitude to every single one I'm working with. So if you're not respecting me, you're not doing the right things, that frustration is going to feed into my business. And I'd rather have that time to work on things I can control than have somebody in my business through desperation just because I hope there's going to be a paycheck there. I'm also a realist, though. Like, we can't step over the paychecks. Just set some standards, set some expectations. Never, ever lower your standards for someone that's not prepared to do the same thing. Elevate theirs for you. And I'm seeing a lot of realtors get, and there's a lot of good choice words I could use for this. There's just a lot of people getting it handed to them right now because they're just not elevating their standards. They're not asking for the most simplest things that you need to run a great business. When you're sitting down with a seller, setting great expectations, having them understand exactly what's happening in the marketplace right now, the time frames around it, what could potentially go wrong. And those things, when they do go wrong, you've already set them up for it. So it's no longer going to affect the relationship. You can't cross your finger and hope it's not. So maybe what you could be doing in your weekly planning now is your listing presentation dialed in? Is every marketing plan dialed in for next year? Have you got, do you have filming days for your social media? So you're not trying to whimsically do it on a day when you're feeling all motivational and pretty. Like, what is the strategy for next year? Are you going to block out 90 minutes every morning, Monday through Friday, to be selfish and grow and focus on the things you control in your business? Maybe what you should do with the 90 minutes is start with 30. Actually get the habit going. That 30 minutes isn't going to change your life. Understanding how impactful that 90 minutes can have. Sit down on a Friday afternoon, review everything you've done, what worked, what didn't. The stuff that worked, don't even focus on it. Hey, you put it down, it's done, it's worked. Focus on the things you didn't get done and then ask yourself a simple question, why not? What could I have done that would have enabled me to get this finished? Most of the time, it's going to be planning and preparation. Didn't have enough time in your calendar. Something else became a little bit more important. All the same old stuff. So go through that and start eliminating all the flaws and problems you have in your business. Start watching your budgets. Understand it's going to be a little bit seasonality next year. We're going to get some flows and highs in the market. Do you have a marketing budget? What's your minimum income need to be to actually make your business run effectively? Run your business like a business. Trust me, if you do this for 6 weeks, you do that weekly targeting, do the review process, you're going to be in a very different spot come turn of the new year and ready for it. Because I can assure you, competition's not. They're all hoping for that mortgage rate to plummet and everything to take off again. That ain't going to help us. That's actually going to do more problems than it's going to do anything good because we've still got the low inventory problem. What you need more than anything right now is the listing opportunities. And we specialize in the listing side for a reason. It's not a choice. It's just what I ended up doing. And being a listing agent, if you actually treat people different, you become a listing agent organically. It's not a choice you can make. Treat people a little different. You'll be surprised at what comes to the table. But maybe this is what you should start focusing on now. If every one of you knew you had 50 deals coming in and, next year, you'd sleep well at night, and you all have it. You're just not asking the right questions right now. And the only reason you don't is you want the date of when those are coming. What I want is I want 50 people that I know are going to sell next year, and all I want to do is hang on to them and just keep supporting them until that time frame actually happens. And it'll happen. Sometimes they could all happen on one day. Somebody might be a month. Somebody could be a year. But every one of those people now becomes a leverage and a lead opportunity for you, because anybody sitting at home over the Christmas break who's thinking about selling next year, you don't think they're not going to be having multiple conversations with every single person they see for the next 6 weeks. You need to be part of that conversation. And the one thing you want people to say is, you know what, my realtor's been awesome, because they're not bothering me about selling their home. They're just keeping me engaged, giving me all the information that I need, so that when I'm ready to sell, they're going to, at least I can consider them for the opportunity. And all we're trying to do is find listing appointments. The third thing, whatever we're up to right now, is I want you to change your mindset on what you're actually going after. Because I think 90% of realtors, the word deal is what we're doing. I need some more deals. I need more transactions. No, you don't. What you need is more opportunities to get in front of people that want it. So the big change for me was me. I'm a deal hunter. I was going out trying to find anything I could do to get someone that wanted to buy or sell a property. And so the whole shift in my head was to get the ultimate amount of business I can get in my whole empire that I was trying to create. Was I need to be doing 2 listing appointments every day if I want to end up where I want to end up. But I also know that's physically impossible to find 2 people every day that want to sell. Well, it only is if you put a time frame on it. And so twice a day. And for the majority of my career, I would meet with 2 people twice a day with the intention of putting them in my pipeline. And it was tiered. So if you were thinking about selling in the next 90 days, you got priority over everything. That's a full-on listing appointment. Away we go. If I couldn't find anybody in there, then I'm going through my database, looking at anybody that's going through any significant changes, job and kids going to college, anything that could kind of trigger an opportunity for them to move. Those people, I'm just reaching out to them saying, hey, look, I've got a couple of new things I'm working on, got to borrow you for 20 minutes, get some feedback on my listing presentation, whatever it was. And then I'd go through any of my just old network people that I was, the business people that I could actually get some advice from, saying I'm just trying some new stuff. And then my fourth one was, if I couldn't find anybody to fill those spots, my assistant Bernie would sit with me for an hour and listen to my listing presentation. And he did that twice in 12 years. He hated it with a passion. So he'd let you go find somebody to sit with me rather than do it himself. But for me, because I focused on the right things, my business always worked. Imagine if you guys just met with one person a day with no intention other than just catching up, getting to see a better version of who you are. So what I did, I pre-booked the appointments. And all I did when I was looking at growing and focusing on the growth in my business, the whole strategy was to put 2 addresses in those appointments. So 11 to 12 and 3 to 4 every day, all I had to do was find someone to go and meet. And so everything in my business was designed to fill those 2 appointments and those 2 appointments only. Go figure, something happens real quick. If all you're doing is looking for deals, it's got a time frame on it, and the results very rarely going to come. That's what built consistency, because it showed people I was a little different. It showed people that I wasn't desperately looking for the deal, but I'll also be very, very open and honest about it. Volume fixes a lot of problems. I was a lot more chaotic and frantic doing 10 deals a month than I ever was at 60, because at 60 deals a month, it's very easy to be honest with people and say no. Like if somebody wanted to meet with me for 15 minutes and they were 5 minutes late, they got 10 minutes. If somebody wanted to meet with me for an hour and they forgot, they don't get another hour. Like for me, it just made me very honest about my business. If I was sitting in a listing appointment and somebody wanted to massively overprice their property, it's like, you know what, I'm just not the right realtor for you right now. And what I ended up finding out when I was being honest with people is they change on you very quickly. They go, oh, okay, well, what do you think we should do? And it was just an instant thing, because I didn't have the fear of losing the business. I could be very open and honest with people and say, look, I love what you're trying to do. I'm just not the right realtor for you. Try this guy, the one that's promised you the price. Try him, give him a shot at it. If it doesn't work out, come back and I'll see what I can do to help you. It just emphasizes confidence. But it was just interesting watching people shift. When you don't have a fear of losing something, it's amazing what comes in. It's amazing what comes in. And you think about every bad decision you've made over the last 12 months has generally been based on the fear of losing something or a false opportunity or a hope. Get your business plan right. Know what your non-negotiables are. Know exactly what you're going to do every single day as a foundation. And if I could ask one thing from everybody, if you knew exactly what you were going to do in that 90 minutes every morning, you'll never have another problem in this business ever again. And what most realtors do, they wake up every day and go, what am I going to do today? There is no way you're ever going to succeed in business if that's your game plan. You should know what is going to be in your morning 90 in 3 weeks from today. You need to know your base foundation of calls, who you're going to make, the stuff that ironically makes you feel good. You know, I used to always have 5 phone calls I used to make every single morning on the way from my home to the office. And that was just because it was all I could make, was the 5 phone calls. And they were the people in my sphere, my most critical sphere of people. Now, these weren't necessarily lead opportunities. What it did is it gave me the ability every Monday through Friday to have 5 phone calls with people I actually liked. And I start my day having conversations with people that were actually nice to me. If you wake up every morning, go straight to the office, just start calling expired listings, well, that's why your whole day is going to be based around that crappy attitude. So a lot of what we've got to do is make sure we put ourselves in the best spot. You know, find something that's going to work for you, find something that makes you feel comfortable. This plan will 100% point in the right direction. But do this, though. Ask yourself that question. If your business, your livelihood depends on it, would you do it? Don't fill it with stuff. There's no prizes for the person who has the most things on it. Actually, the person who has the least things on this plan is the one that wins all the prizes, because you can't screw up putting 2 things on your business plan and finishing it every week. You're either going to do it or you're not, and you're going to get exposed really, really quickly. So make some mistakes with it. Get a little comfortable with it. Try it out. There's a whole video on there. There's a whole lot of walkthrough exercises to show you how to do it. And if you guys can do me a favor and you can go through this for the next 6 weeks, I will come back in January, early January, and I'll show you how to put together one of the most effective 90-day business plans, one sheet. And you know what? We can share them with everybody, so everybody will see exactly what you're up to. But it's going to be task-driven. It's not going to be based on money. It's going to be based on actions and things you can control, people you can leverage, things to grow your network, things you can actually produce a tangible result from, not a wish list. And ultimately, the whole goal for your group is to be doing, every one of you should be doing at least 3 to 4 listing appointments every single week. And every one of them, you can do them right now, providing you remove the time frame from it, providing you offer great operations for people, great service, great support, great follow-up, a next step plan. They see the point of difference in you. When we do come back, Leo, I'm happily will share with you what one of our new 3-step listing strategies, which breaks it into 3 different steps, which removes the time frame as well. So lots of super easy things. But if you guys get this right, I will give you whatever you need to absolutely make sure that you make 2024 an incredible year. And we've got a lot of great realtors doing it now. And they've been working on it for 6 months. And I will say it's a little challenging out there at the moment. We've got to work some more hours, but hey, that's life. Sometimes it gets a little tough, but if you're actually prepared to make a few changes, the reward from this is going to be really, really good. One thing I will say though, and I saw this the other day, and I think I shared this with you, Leo, but I think I want everybody to listen to this very, very carefully, because this is so spot on for where our industry is right now. And I think just because of all the stuff that's happening out there right now, and think about what we do. We're in the business of people. That's all we do. And whoever can make the most amount of friends is going to win. And so when we actually look at our industry right now, and there's an old saying when it comes to human psychology, when things are unrest or uneasy, or we're anxious or we're nervous or we're fearful, the first thing it does is it shuts down logical thinking. The very first thing that happens when you're under pressure is logical thinking gets shut down and irrational emotions get elevated. And this is exactly where you are right now, is you've got these irrational emotions being elevated to certain things that are happening. You need to have the most logical thinking process, which this plan will give you, because it'll give you a place to go and focus on the things that you can control, not a wish list. And if you do it Monday through Friday, there's nowhere to hide. And I will say the hardest thing about accountability is holding yourself accountable, which is make it short, know what you can achieve. And honestly, I've built a process here that you can cheat on, because you can actually look at the target, look at the plan, and make it so easy you can't screw it up. Teach yourself the habit. And every now and again, when you get a few wins, you'll start to see how easy it is. And I think I was more mind blown with real estate as to how easy it was. But I spent the first 3 years overcomplicating it, because it didn't make sense that I should be able to make this sort of money working this type of job. I mean, really all I had to do was go and meet people and find some friends and have them like me. And all of a sudden I was going to be able to make as much money as I possibly could. But I overcomplicated it because that just didn't make sense. I did that for you. You guys don't need to go and do it. I've done it in 10 countries. So it doesn't matter what language you speak or where you're from or what neighborhood you live. Everybody wants the same thing. Someone they can trust, someone they can lean on. We're dealing with people's biggest assets. They don't want pressure. What they need is comfort and support. Go out and show them something different. You'll be amazed how many listings you'll get next year, because that bottleneck is about to pop. There was 1.9 million sales that didn't happen in 2020 and 2021 because they didn't have to. And that's not because of the low interest rates. It's because, homeschooling and all the normal transactional things that happen, they will be coming at some point, more than likely in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. So get ready for it, because every one of you, if your pipeline had, like I said, 50 people in it, you'd be in a pretty good spot right now. Sad part is you actually will have it. You just don't know who they are. Go find out who they are. Have some conversations, but avoid emails and text messages at all costs. You need the emotional response. You need to hear people's voices about what they're going through. And if I call Leo and he goes, man, I'm not really thinking about selling right now, that is still a hell no, not get off the phone. He is thinking about it at some point. So all I'm doing is shifting that to a relationship building communication and just getting rid of the real estate. Because he hasn't said, Aaron, piss off and never call me again. He's still open to the conversation. And you never know. Because if anybody's been in the business long enough, you know you've all met people that have said, look, we're a year out, we're not even interested. And then 3 months later, they're sold with somebody else. You know what? You got the conversation started, but you got too lazy to keep it connected and follow up with them. Now, in a perfect world, when you're building out these plans, though, your communication, you need to have some form of connection with your people at least every 2 to 3 weeks. That's human psychology. That's not marketing. Nobody on the school remembers who they spoke to 3 weeks ago and what they talked about. So don't ever expect your clients to remember you based on the conversation you had with them 9 months ago. Small, frequent bits of interaction is what builds a strong relationship. If you do the client profiling, you understand who people are, you'll always have reasons to connect and communicate with them. Makes so easy. Right. Any questions? I know there was a flurry of them coming in there, Leo. Anything I can dive into? Any sort of really challenging questions you guys have at the moment?
Yeah, dude, everybody's blowing up the chat. I took a ton of notes. I know everybody took a ton of notes. Let's definitely type in some questions here as we're wrapping up, guys. We usually go until about 11 o'clock. So you guys know we're going a little bit over. So thank you guys for you're sticking in here. But I think James,
Leo, can I just jump in for 1 second? James, I really want to answer that question. I'm not, hey, if you're free for the rest of the day, great. You can do as much as you like. But one of the things I always see people struggle with is when we get into the business, we work 10 hours a day, growing our business. Once we get a bit of business, we stop doing the things that grew our business. The 90 minutes in the morning, James, is something you can do no matter how big or how great your business becomes. So that becomes the foundation. Now, if you don't have any other work, spend the rest of the day, keep doing it. But the 90 minutes is the non-negotiable part. So great question, buddy, because quite a lot of people go, I got nothing else to do, so at 10 o'clock, I'm going home. No, that's not how it works. That's the foundation of your business. You've got to make sure that the tools you use to grow your business can stay no matter how big your business gets, because there's certain things that'll always need to stay. But after that, yeah, I mean, if you've got a free afternoon, sure, keep building the business, buddy. But that 90 minutes, that's non-negotiable. 8:30, 10, hard stop, hard start. Perfect.
Great question. Great question. Any other questions? Any other questions for Aaron? This was absolute fire. And you guys are all going to get the recording, by the way. And I'm going to be sending out the PDF as well, so you guys can all have it. But any other last questions?
I did throw that link in there. So if you guys want to go down, there's a ton of other free stuff you might better take out of there as well. But like I said, you guys give me 6 weeks of doing that 1 week business plan. I'll be back in January to show you how to build out a 90-day one, and it'll definitely help you. Definitely help.
I think we're going to bring you back. I'm getting so many messages directly, right? Should we bring them back for the 90-day plan or what? Are you guys in? Yes. I think everybody's in, man. We'll definitely do it up. Yeah, everybody's blowing up the chat. Everybody's saying yes. So we're going to definitely bring you back for the 90-day plan. And we'll make sure to send out the replay for you guys with the link. That way you get additional resources. This is going to be it's going to impact your business in a profound way. Everything he shared, by the way, he lives it. I've connected with Aaron for the last 2 years. And we're just always just catch up. We add value to each other. How's everything going? And we finally, this last conversation we had, I'm like, hey, why don't we just do something with business planning? Let's do it, right? It was, so everything he's telling you guys about adding value, building the relationship, he lives it. He lives it. So thank you so much, Aaron, for being so awesome.
My pleasure. Hey, we just need to start sharing, I think, with everybody. I think one of the things and one of the reasons that Leo and I have become really good friends is that ability to share things with people. I think a lot of people in our industries get a little protective of what they've got. And hey, I've had an incredible career in the industry, and I'm at that point now where it's just about giving people the same sort of opportunities that I had and that Leo had when we first got into the business. You know, I was a young guy who just wasn't scared to ask questions and found my way through the industry, and I've had a lot of incredible success. But more than that, it just gave me the life that I wanted to have. So, you know, sharing information is just one of the most powerful things we can do. Like I said, we're half of it. Your job is to get in there, dive into it. There's direct access to me now, and there's a chat room. So if you want to just ask a question, there is no dumb question. The only dumb question is one you don't ask. Seriously, I'll help you with whatever you need. That's really what our industry is about anyway. So, hey, feel free, reach out anytime. I'm very close with Leo. So if you have any other questions, you want to sort of dive into something at another time, please reach out anytime. Happy to help anywhere we can. And
I just dropped your Instagram. So everybody go show some love to Aaron. Follow him on social media. That way you guys can give us some shout out, let people know you got a lot of value from today. But Aaron, thank you so much, brother. I really, really, truly appreciate you, man. This was extremely valuable. I took pages of notes. I know everybody took pages of notes, but we'll definitely have you back very soon, my friend. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure. Guys, have a wonderful Thanksgiving too. Appreciate you all. Thank you for you all. Thank you.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving. That's right. Yes, 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 yes. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Thank you guys for sticking in here. We'll see you guys at the next training. Let's grow.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.